This video is sponsored by Invideo AI. Nearly 5 years since Ricky Gervais left his fifth and last gig hosting the Golden Globe Awards in 2020, the comedian's life seems rather idyllic. He's long settled into a £12 million mansion in the beautiful Hampstead neighbourhood. When he strolls with his writer and producer girlfriend of 25 years, he stops to pleasantly greet fans and fuss with their dogs.
I really love dogs. We go for a walk every day just to meet dogs. I know about 200 dogs by name now, and you always meet a few of your little friends, and it sets me up for the day. It's like my fucking heroin, right?
He's built out a new office in his 9-bedroom house while he puts the final touches together in his next Netflix special. A special that would take him on a global tour that fetches him around £1 million per show. But the present tranquility betrays the trail he once blazed through Hollywood, which both revered and reviled Gervais, who received 4 Golden Globe Awards while roasting Hollywood's A-listers and power brokers along the way.
Our next presenter starred in Netflix's Bird Box, a movie where people survive by acting like they don't see a thing. Sort of like working for Harvey Weinstein. You did it, I didn't, you did it. Shut the fuck up.
To understand how Gervais remained independent of the Hollywood machine, it's useful to look at some of the entitled tendencies and morbid associations that Gervais has over and over again called out amongst the Hollywood elite. Throughout the years, Gervais and Morgan have had a chummy rapport, at least in front of the camera, and it's easy to see why. Both are British that became huge in America with their distinct brand of truth-telling. Morgan and Gervais likely found each other simpatico, taking political correctness and America's peculiarities to task. But chumminess didn't keep Ricky from exposing the pundits' modus operandi. In fact, Gervais may recognize Morgan's playbook because it so much resembles a childish, unfunny version of his own.
Like Piers Morgan, he's good at it because I think he evolved doing that sort of thing. He's a sort of a contrarian, I guess. And you know, you've got to know that some things he means and some things he doesn't. Some things he's trolling, like being furious about a vegan sausage roll, and then other things he means. But I think he'd admit he's got to be a bit clickbait. It's his living.
Piers Morgan, a journalist who experienced early success climbing the rungs of Rupert Murdoch-owned media entities and Sky News, might fancy himself as an inconvenient truth-teller in the same vein as Gervais, especially with the huge popularity of his recent show on YouTube. But all the way back in 2011, Morgan invited Gervais onto his CNN program Piers Morgan Tonight.
As a fellow Brit, well, first of all, thank you, because until you came along, I was the most reviled Brit on TV in America. So you've comfortably exceeded all expectations.
I always thought you'd be deported before me. But it's touch and go now, isn't it?
Now, their friendly on-camera appearance makes sense. After all, both Brits share a distrust of people taking offense to comedy and an exhaustion to supposed political correctness. The occasion for Gervais' appearance on Good Morning Britain was to discuss the media frenzy after Gervais' hosting of the 2011 Golden Globes. Sipping a pint at the podium, Gervais had brought up the R-word, virtue signaling, and alcoholics. All the while, throughout his subsequent Golden Globe appearances, Gervais was biting his thumb at the Hollywood elite while promoting his own projects. But whereas Ricky serves up his commentaries with bawdy humor in service of making audiences reconsider conformist ideas, Morgan has reportedly come across as just an out-of-touch middle-ager yelling at you to get off his lawn. In place of humor, many people just see Morgan as a bit nasty and boorish, whereas Gervais' controversies seem to have provided him a growing list of opportunities and greener productions, whereas Morgan's dust-ups have led to a series of ethical scandals including insider trading, phone hacking, and events that have prompted him to be investigated and even fired. In 2021, he actually quit ITV's Good Morning Britain because of a petty distrust of Meghan Markle, and a related on-air dispute with the programme's weatherwoman about race.
You continue to trash her.
Okay, I'm done with this.
No.
Sorry, no. Sorry.
So, do you know what? That's
You can
pathetic.
trash him, mate.
Now, Gervais actually holds many of the same views as Morgan, but his remarkable wit has allowed him to rise above the fold time and time again. But instead of dishing up infotainment journalism and commentary, Gervais goes for the jugular with his unbridled comedy and social commentary. It's the difference between small t and capital T truth-telling, and hosting the Golden Globes provided Gervais with an unrivaled platform seen by over 200 million viewers throughout the world. But this brings us to the next person on the list. But before we continue, I want to say that after being on YouTube for over 3 years now, it's been an absolute grind making these videos. To just make a video like this, it takes a bunch of research, planning, scripting, voice recording, editing, motion design, post-production, title and thumbnail planning, and just so much more. All this for multiple videos a week, every month, every year. But you see, that's where Invideo AI comes in. Invideo AI is the world's most used AI video creator with over 10 million users across 150 plus countries. It's the only AI video creator out of the 20 plus tools that I've tried that puts you in the driver's seat and works as your personal sidekick to help you with the painstaking tasks of scripting, editing, and finding relevant footage so that you can bring your ideas to life using simple text prompts. All you have to do is start with a simple text prompt and it creates the first rough draft for you.
Oh, Piers Morgan and Ricky Gervais, what a combo, eh?
From there, you can get creative and fine-tune your video using just text prompts in ways you'd never imagined. Want to change the intro? Done. Want it to find better footage for a scene? Done. Want it to translate your video to Spanish? Done. And the best part is, you can clone your voice and make it narrate the video in your voice in any language. Oh, Piers Morgan and Ricky Gervais, what a combo, eh? And in the end, this will literally save you hundreds of dollars every month, as it does the job of more than 10 tools packed into one and costs just $20 a month to start with. Now, of course, in many ways, AI is a huge threat, and the idea of AI replacing people is a scary situation. But instead, Invideo AI is just a way to put your projects into life, and allows you to level up your own skills and talents. Skills and talents that would seem out of reach before. You can try Invideo AI for free, but if you're serious about video creation, you should get the paid plan that starts at just $20 a month, which is the one that I have, and it removes the watermark and gives you access to voice cloning and high quality stock footage. Just go to the link in the description below and use my code MOON50 to get twice the number of video generation credits in your first month. You see, one of Hollywood's top A-listers that Gervais has been unsparing in his criticisms has been Mel Gibson. By the early 2000s, his world was spiraling out of control in a very public way. Stop for Drunk Driving in 2006, Gibson was recorded saying a bunch of anti-Semitic stuff to his arresting officer. Now, the behavior wasn't really out of character for Hollywood's bad boy. He's been reported like this for years.
The rant goes on. A fourth tape now, reportedly, of Mel Gibson and his ex-girlfriend, now made public. And this morning, legal experts are saying the threats heard on those tapes could land the two-time Oscar winner in jail.
But to make matters worse, in 2010, Gibson's then girlfriend recorded him dressing her down for wearing clothing he deemed too revealing.
You are provocatively dressed all the time with your fake boobs you feel you have to show off in tight outfits. And
she also accused him of hitting her several times during the incident.
You almost killed us, did you forget?
Gravy drink.
You were hitting a woman with a child in her hands. You, what kind of man is that? Hitting a woman when she's holding a child in her hand, breaking her teeth twice in the face. What kind of man is that?
Later that year, it would be the first time Gervais would host the Golden Globes Awards, and the dust had barely settled with the Gibson situation. So Gervais told the Hollywood Reporter that his approach to the Globes would be that he wanted to avoid any clubbiness. After all, despite Gervais' success with The Office, he was still far from being an A-lister himself. One unforgettable moment that evening came when Gervais introduced Gibson as a presenter.
Honestly, I like a drink as much as the next man. Unless the next man is Mel Gibson.
In subsequent stints hosting the Golden Globes, Gervais wouldn't let Hollywood forget about Gibson's remarks.
He's been through a lot. Not as much as the Jews, to be fair.
And then at the Golden Globes in 2016, Gervais experienced the awkward situation of introducing Gibson once more. In an interview with Variety magazine in 2016, 10 years after the DUI arrest, Gibson maintained that he'd been sober since the incident, but still he seemed to skirt responsibility for his remarks.
Are those anti-Semitic words?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Sounds horrible. And I'm ashamed of that. That came out of my mouth, and I'm not that. That's not who I am, you know.
Gervais even found the last seconds of ceremony to take one last dig at Gibson.
What the fuck does sugar tits even mean?
If Gervais seems to feel unbeholden to the Hollywood elite, it's because he wasn't dependent on them giving him jobs. By 2011, Gervais was on his way to earning $100 million with dealings related to The Office, particularly the American version. Gervais was arriving in Hollywood as a player of his own making. Another Hollywood celebrity Gervais has kept in his crosshairs through the years is Caitlyn Jenner. Born Bruce, Jenner became an American icon for winning gold in the decathlon at the 1976 Olympics. Jenner even appeared on the cover of Wheaties boxes on breakfast tables everywhere. And in 2007, Jenner regained their popularity playing the patriarch of the Kardashian-Jenner clan on the immensely popular Keeping Up with the Kardashians show. But in 2015, Jenner would make big news. Appearing on 2020, Bruce let the world know that he had actually been transitioning, and now wished to be referred to as Caitlyn.
I would say I've always been very confused with my gender identity since I was this big.
Are you a woman?
Yes, for all intents and purposes, I am a woman.
And soon after this announcement, disaster struck, as Jenner was tragically involved in a car accident that left a driver killed. Even though authorities declined to press charges because they couldn't prove that Jenner's conduct was unreasonable, months later Gervais was hosting the 73rd Golden Globe Awards. And this was perfect material for Ricky, as he couldn't resist the chance to impugn Jenner's celebrity privilege.
Hello and welcome to the 73rd Annual Golden Globe Awards. I've changed. Not as much as Bruce Jenner, obviously. Now Caitlyn Jenner, of course. What a year she's had. She became a role model for trans people everywhere, showing great bravery in breaking down barriers and destroying stereotypes. She didn't do a lot for women drivers, but you can't have everything, can you? Not at the same time.
On Twitter, Gervais greeted pushback against his Jenner joke. Suggesting a joke about Caitlyn Jenner is automatically transphobic is like suggesting a joke about Bill Cosby is automatically racist. Jenner, who had planned the announcement of her gender transition with the publicity of a new reality show, I Am Kate, fired back at Gervais. She was gunning for his job as the next Golden Globes host. On Ricky, I think what I'm gonna do is call the Golden Globes and see if they need a new host for next year, she said, and we'll solve that problem. But Gervais was unfazed, tweeting, "Please, please, please let her host the Golden Globes, just don't let her drive." In the following months, Jenner's reality show I Am Kate, which centered on her gender transition, was cancelled, and the Golden Globes never took her up on her offer to host. So in 2018, Ricky elaborated on the Jenner controversy during his stand-up special Humanity.
What do you think of the Ricky Gervais joke? And she went, maybe I should host the Golden Globes, right? And they tweeted that, and they atted me in. I just sent back, let her host, just don't let her drive.
Netflix paid him $40 million for his subsequent two specials, Supernature and Armageddon. Aside from the obvious hilarity of the joke, at the time of Gervais' jokes about Jenner, cancel culture was in high tide. Critics on Twitter and in the mainstream alike painted Gervais as a transphobic bigot, for merely making a joke about Jenner's vehicular incident. But of course, Gervais was having none of this. By this time, Gervais had done in Hollywood largely everything he'd already wished to do. He cherry-picked passion projects such as writing and voice acting an episode of The Simpsons.
It is me, Ricky Gervais. Tonkeray gin and tonic, please. I'm paid to drink that in my movies. The amount isn't important. A lot to you, let's be honest. Not so much to me. Okay, you missed it, but I just put a tip in there. A big one. Double digits. 10. The lowest of the double digits, but nevertheless, $10. So, a lot of money to you. Less to me, but $10 nonetheless. Look at it.
And he even had a guest appearance on Sesame Street. He'd had a taste for Hollywood show running, as well as releasing The Invention of Lying in 2009 and Special Correspondence in 2016, amongst others. Gervais was beginning to reflect on the work he truly wanted to do, and it didn't involve saying or doing exactly what was in his heart. During his last stint hosting the Golden Globes in 2020, Gervais pulled no punches.
No one cares about movies anymore. No one goes to the cinema. No one really watches network TV. Everyone's watching Netflix. This show should just be me coming out going, well done Netflix, you win everything, good night.
It's no coincidence that Gervais plugs Netflix. After all, it's the Hollywood disrupting streaming platform that has provided Gervais with tens of millions of dollars for the rights to his award-winning specials. Netflix also freed Gervais from the typical Hollywood power structure and its power brokers. In fact, Netflix also released Gervais' hit series Afterlife, where he plays an ordinary yet content man who's devastated by his wife's death from cancer.
You could binge watch the entire first season of Afterlife instead of watching this show. That's a show about a man who wants to kill himself because his wife dies of cancer, and it's still more fun than this, okay? Spoiler alert, season 2 is on the way, so in the end he obviously didn't kill himself, just like Jeffrey Epstein.
Now, of course, Mr. Jeffrey was a multi-millionaire Wall Street financier. Everyone knows the story at this point, and he was known as a benefactor in people's powerful careers, charities, and vanity projects, especially those of Hollywood A-listers. But in 2019, when his house of cards came crumbling down in a very dodgy way, people realized how ridiculous and disturbing this entire situation was. And so this stab by Ricky Gervais about Mr. Jeffrey hit a nerve amongst the Golden Globe celebrity audience, as many of them were later revealed this year to have been in Mr. Jeffrey's little black book. These celebrities included Cate Blanchett, Naomi Campbell, David Copperfield, Cameron Diaz, Leonardo DiCaprio, Chris Tucker, Michael Jackson, Kevin Spacey, Dustin Hoffman, Courtney Love and Bruce Willis, and they remained in his social circle even after all the allegations started coming out, as despite all of this, he was still being invited to attend Hollywood premiere parties and galas, as Vanity Fair reported. The hypocrisy of Hollywood's virtue signaling while keeping close company with someone like Mr. Jeffrey was too much for Gervais to stomach.
Shut up! I know he's your friend, but I don't care.
Kate, whose information was later revealed to be among the list of Hollywood contacts, described the discomfort in the crowd and her own when Gervais made the crack. By this time, Hollywood had reached peak sanctimony. With each revelation of predation and bigotry committed by Hollywood's power elites, A-listers clucked their tongues and feigned innocence. But Gervais felt a moral obligation to the 200 million Golden Globe viewers at home to make cheeky work of Hollywood's hypocrisy, and everyone loved him all the more for it, as Hollywood's coziness with powerful predators doesn't stop with just Mr. Jeffrey. There was even a direct line discovered between Mr. Jeffrey and Harvey Weinstein, the Hollywood executive producer who was charged with a bunch of crimes just around this period. But rewind to 1979 when Harvey co-founded Miramax Films with his brother Bob Weinstein, and the powerhouse studio, which would later become the Weinstein Company, became responsible for such Hollywood touchstones as Good Will Hunting, The Road, and virtually every movie Quentin Tarantino ever made. Along the way, Mr. Jeffrey began moving in the same power circles as Harvey. After all, they came up as middle-class New Yorkers who'd made millions accruing outsized influence along the way. But Harvey's crimes weren't publicly known when Gervais hosted the Golden Globes, such as in 2011 when Gervais leveled jokes at Bridesmaids and Dame Helen Mirren, and also Mel Gibson in 2016.
The girls finally proved that they can be as raunchy as the men. Farting, burping, cursing, performing wild sex acts, even pooping in the sink. I actually heard for a search the cast spent the weekend with Dame Helen Mirren. She's dreadful. Honestly, you don't see a lot of it because she's got good PR, but she's off the rails. I want to say something nice about Mel before he comes out. Oh yeah, okay, here you go. I'd rather have a drink with him in his hotel room tonight than with Bill Cosby.
Eerily, Weinstein is chuckling at Gervais's joke that he'd rather have a private drink with Gibson than one with Bill Cosby, who'd also been accused by numerous women over the years of doing horrible crimes against them. But by the 2020 Golden Globes, everything had long come to a head for Weinstein. In 2017, the New York Times and the New Yorker exposed Weinstein, and he was criminally charged with a bunch of awful crimes.
Harvey Weinstein built an empire with films from Shakespeare in Love to Pulp Fiction to Good Will Hunting. Now he's a convicted rapist.
Right, last one, come on guys. Our next presenter starred in Netflix's Bird Box, a movie where people survive by acting like they don't see a thing. Sort of like working for Harvey Weinstein. You did it, I didn't, you did it.
Weinstein had a huge role in the careers of directors like Quentin Tarantino and mega celebrities like Brad Pitt, John Travolta, and Samuel L. Jackson, along with people like Bradley Cooper, Jennifer Lawrence, and so many more.
Harvey Weinstein, Bob Weinstein, God bless him.
Harvey Weinstein, who believed in us and made this movie.
Harvey and Bob Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein.
Thank you, Harvey Weinstein, especially Harvey.
I want to thank Harvey and Bob Weinstein.
Thank Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein. Harvey, who first took me on 20 years ago.
I would like to thank Harvey Weinstein.
But that's not to imply that those under his thumb aided him in any way in his disgusting crimes, and it's fair to imagine that some of these A-listers were silently victimized by Weinstein himself, either directly or by proxy. But the fact remains that if they knew any of his predations, they never sounded the alarm, likely for fear of tanking their own careers. Gervais didn't seem to care though. In his Golden Globes hosting, he was beholden to the viewers, normal people around the world, not the 200 A-listers in the room. And by the time the 81st Golden Globes rolled around in early 2024, Gervais was spending an increased amount of time in London, living a relaxed life in Marlow and Hampstead Heath. When Gervais's Armageddon won Best Performance in Stand-Up Comedy on television, Gervais didn't even bother showing up. It was a very fitting way to express to Hollywood that he didn't want to join their horde, thirsty for institutional validation in the hope of winning more vehicles for their swollen egos. Gervais would rather be at home out for a stroll with his love and fussing over their cat Pickle. And despite his massive wealth acclaim and pending global tour, the 65-year-old comedian reminds us more of ourselves, more than Hollywood seemingly could ever do, which makes his unexpected blazing trail through Hollywood all the more surreal and morally satisfying.